In times of uncertainty, investors typically turn to gold, and there were certainly some flows to the precious metal this morning. This as the Fed looks to proceed with another 75 basis point hike and amid the ongoing war in Ukraine. So what's the best way to play it? WallachBeth Capital's Director of ETF Trading Solutions, Mohit Bajaj, joins us now. And Mohit, the big question for gold is, why hasn't it performed better? Year to date, it is down almost 7%. You could argue that it's done much better than other assets. But really, why hasn't oil gone to the moon, let's say, for gold bugs?
I think what's happening this year is that historically gold has been an inflation hedge, or considered an inflation hedge. But with uncertainty with the central banks, inflation now, at 8.5% almost, right? We haven't seen this type of inflation since the 1970s. People are a little more hesitant in getting into gold. And two, it hasn't performed as well as it historically has, right? Just because we've seen this huge spike in inflation and concerns with interest rates, gold usually performs pretty statically when inflation doesn't move as much or interest rates are more flatlined. But what we've seen this huge spike now with rates and inflation at the same time, which we haven't seen in 40 years. Gold hasn't proven to be its historically inflation-proof product that people hoped it would be.
I mean, just the safe haven play that it traditionally has been. You know, we've seen the move today on the back of what's been playing out in Russia, but as you said, it hasn't really tracked with how it's historically been traded. We'll get to how you can actually trade gold, but I wonder, when you talk about prices, how much of what we've seen so far has to do with what's been playing out in China and India?
It's become a huge part of it. So unfortunately, with China, they're still under COVID restriction. So what's happening now is that usually China is a big consumer of gold products. So is India. So when China's on lockdown, not many people are actually physically buying the product. What needs to happen essentially in those countries is that there needs to be more open marketness. People need to go out and start shopping. And that hasn't been happening. So that's been kind of creating an excess surplus in the marketplace, and why gold prices haven't been lifted since.
How much gold do you think that investors should have in their portfolio?
I'm a big proponent of always allocating across the board in all sorts of different asset classes. Anywhere from 5 to 10% should be no more than significant in one's portfolio. Obviously, you don't want to be overweighted in any asset class, right, or sector for that matter. But having anywhere from a 5 to 10% weighting in your portfolio, I think, would be more than sufficient.
So where are you seeing the inflows right now when you talk about ETF products that are market that allow investors to trade in gold?
Well, there's a couple of products that are out there that are all fine products. GLD is one of them. It was the first ETF in the marketplace to actually track gold. It's about 50 billion in assets. So if you want to get access to gold without having to physically buy the metal, you can just buy that ETF. BAR is another one that we've seen a lot of strong demand in. One of the reasons why it's become so popular is it's actually become a lower expense fee play. And from a price standpoint, it's only like $16 or $17. So for those who are novice investors and just want to kind of put their foot into the space, they can buy that without having to expel as much capital.
And would you recommend physical gold?
I think it's the problem with having physical gold is that if you want to sell it, it's going to be a little bit tougher, right? It's getting the liquidity, buying it, storing it, and even getting out of it is always problematic. That's why it's much easier to have the ETF, where you can basically get liquidity anytime you want to get out.
Okay, some good investing advice there. Mohit Bajaj, WallachBeth Capital's Director of ETF Trading Solutions. Appreciate your time today.